Good morning. This is Spirit Journey. Today is Tuesday, May 26, 2020. It's Tuesday and the time is about 6:15 a.m. No, 6:19 a.m. Boy, I've been up all night. I had like little sleeps. I'm in my living room and I was watching videos. And very interesting, a little troubling the videos. I want to talk to you about the one I'm watching. The video, I had to get a subscription to see it. The subscription is from the Far Sight, like to see far away, Far Sight Institute. The director of this institute, his name is Courtney Brown, and he does remote viewing. And, well, he teaches remote viewing, and he trains individuals, and he uses these individuals for different projects of things he wants to research about. And one of the things that he utilized these remote viewers to do is to get information on what they call the death trap. Now, this death trap, I've heard of the term in certain genres, the life after death, people who study life after death. What's her name? I forget her name, but she teaches this technique of, you meditate and then you get to see, your past lives, things like that. And some of the people talked about this, what happens sometimes when when you pass away, that you kind of get recycled. And this is what this video is about, this research. And they were the research, the remote viewers were, given a subject to look onto, to get information. And my thoughts are such, so that's what this audio is going to be about. As I'm watching this, I put it on pause. It's troubling because the three people, he uses three people to examine this search about this topic. And if this thing is true, to watch the ladies, the young ladies, and they're discussing, as a remote viewing, they're expressing themselves, and it's wow. I think it's evil. I watched a lot of it, because I subscribed to his work last night. And he had some, he's a YouTuber, he has free stuff on YouTube, but to get it in depth, he might show a snippet of some of his work, but to see the full video, you have to subscribe on his website, and you can watch with the you have to pay, and you can watch all his stuff. And it's kind of alarming. If this stuff is true, like they're mentioning about one person who died tragically, and these remote viewers could pick up the emotions and the feelings that occurs with these individuals who passed. And then there's a spiritual doorway. Like once you're out of your body, your life force is out of your body, or your mind, or whatever you want to call it, your spirit, your soul, whatever. It goes on a journey, goes through something, and the person's mindset was still angry. They died a very violent death, and their mind is still violent even after death. And they came across some like a series of doorways that they can choose to go into, and they may not have realized that they have even passed away. And what's ironic is that they did open the door, and it's kind of like okay, and then it's slowly, as his soul is traveling through this entryway, initially was like a la-di-da, happy, and then it slowly gets dark and creepy. And there is a electrical charge, and the guy is like fighting to keep his mind together. Well, what that was about, it was what they call that people get zapped. That people, when you cross over, they recycle your mind, and you're thrown back onto this planet or whatever, and they get that something happened in early history, the hijacking of it, that they call this he's calling it, the director of this institution, a prison planet. And all of us that are here are imprisoned. I mean, I've heard that term before, prison planet and all that. But hearing it through this remote view, you really start to wonder, hey, is this really true? You start to, think maybe this is really a valid phenomenon. You do have cultures like in India that do believe in reincarnation. And sometimes people, little children remember, and then it usually fades away, their memory of it, or they just forget it. Why have someone go through a door and make it seem peaceful initially to attract them? It's like a lure to attract them to enter, make them feel a little good, and then zap them. And that this zapping is an electrical current that makes them forget who they are. And they recycle them back somewhere. I didn't get to the part, post zapping, how they're being brought back to the planet. But there is what they say an alien, an ET component to all this. And I just thought this is really sinister and evil. And we've all heard, or many of us have heard of the expression as above, so below. you have wicked people down here. And I started thinking about World War II, where you had these scientists. And these scientists could have just, given the victims something so they don't even know what's going on. But it's like they want to traumatize you and cause you so much pain, and your awareness of this pain. It's like a sadisticness you want to inflict pain. And I started thinking that there's some people, what I'm starting to think now, that, and I think this is why I'm really doing this audio, that I believe, like, based on the things that I'm seeing and other videos that I've seen over the recent years, that this planet is filled with people who serve like agents to these wicked people, or BETs, that are causing this, what they call the death trap, like after we pass on, and they zap you to forget. So you have people here on this planet serving as agents, and it's like they're being run by these other people. And so their mindset is like the mindset of these oppressors. And you see throughout history the same type of phenomena, people who just seem to get off on being cruel. Look at the transatlantic slave trade. You had people who were being forcibly removed from their homes, forced onto these large ships, and chained up, whipped, starved to submission, and then brought to the Americas. And, they could have just got volunteers from their own country, or just stay in their own countries and just make your own place a better place to live and more prosperous where you're from. But instead they got other people, strangers who never done them any harm, and oppressed them and caused such havoc and this sadisticness for slavery to cultivate the land and things like that. And it's a perpetual. And I think, how did people become evil like this? Well, I'm thinking now, these people are being directed to do these things. It's nothing new under the sun. And it may have happened to them. See that like in a modern day prison, that you have like wardens, right? And a lot of these people who work as wardens, they're not the most intelligent people. Who wants to have a job in a prison? And if the people get out of line, you just zap them, or, be cruel, or put them in solitary confinement, things like that. It's a repeated theme. And so, why? Why this repetition? What caused us to even get into this system? They said that the souls of the people here on this planet come from all over the galaxies, plural. And I've heard in some people's research, Dolores Cannon, she said that there were volunteers, and there was like 5 waves of volunteers, I think she called it. And it was to enlighten humanity, something like that. You know what I'm thinking? This could be part of the death trap. Let's recruit people from around the galaxy that they can help people on planet Earth, lure them here to elevate the people spiritually. But you become a slave here too. Right? As above, so below. You have people like the Native American Indians. They, like, if you read Christopher Columbus's journals, yes, they're available for anyone to read. You go to the library. You can go to the main library in New York City, the one on 42nd Street, and the research library, and they have the translations of Christopher Columbus's journals when he's on the ship, and he writes his account. Yeah, people in those days, everybody wrote, like if you're a captain of a ship, you keep a log of everything that happens aboard that ship. Anything that goes on. And this could be read today, And I remember reading it. I couldn't even, I had to put it down, the book down, because it was getting me that upset. But why I mention this story is that in this law, Christopher Columbus's journals, that he mentions about the Native American Indians that he comes across in the Caribbean, and that they were very curious about the ship. And they came on board the ship unknowing what Christopher Columbus was intentions were. And some of them were sleeping. They came on and they were starting to sleep on the floor. And Christopher Columbus says, if these people only knew what I'm going to do to them. He kidnapped them and brought them to Europe. Yep. I don't remember whether some of them he returned, but either way, they were abused. And the horror, the part when I'm reading that they were sleeping, because these are people who never, I guess, experienced this type of wickedness, intent. These are just indigenous people outside of the European system who are trusting that this never happened to them, this type of wickedness of intent. They were, just regular people. And this happened to them. So it reminds me again, the death trap, the human smuggling mentality. Yeah, let's deceive you. Let's just not tell you what our intentions are. And then they can bring you anywhere. They can sell you. And this human trafficking is happening today. Just look at what's the Pizzagate, or Jeffrey Epstein, who got killed last year in jail. He was awaiting trial, and he gets strangled while waiting for his trial. He and other people were involved in this human trafficking and using the teenage girls as like a sex pot to lure men of power. These guys could have been in government or part of a private institution, so they can be blackmailed and controlled. Blackmailed and controlled. It is such a large network. And what if this large network is also connected to the people who oversee it? They serve as wardens. You can think this Jeffrey Epstein as a warden of many wardens. And you just look at his religion. I'm not going to even say what his religion is. This what ethnic group Jeffrey Epstein belonged to. But that same group keeps on repeating, keeps popping up, and doing these things in modern times. But we're taught initially that they're victims. But a lot of them are perpetrators. And, well, anyway, that these wardens, and these wardens could be rewarded. Just like in the slavery days in the Americas, the slave drivers were rewarded maybe with a little extra food. Some of them were slaves themselves. And they used other slaves to control the slaves in the plantation. And even during World War II, they used prisoners to oversee the other prisoners to make sure that they do, the prisoners do what they were supposed to do. There was labor. These people in the concentration camps during World War II were used as slaves. They were forced labor. But they seemed to hide what the labor was. See, someone's not going to have a big system, a big, massive amount of buildings and stuff. You just get a gun and just shoot them or bomb them. But no, their labor was being extracted again. And when you see those in those films on World War II in the concentration camps, what do you see? You see people who are skin and bones. They just make you think that they just got skin and bones overnight. No. These people were worked to death. That's what killed them. Not the gas chambers. These people were worked to death, and they want to hide what the work was. It was technologies. And these groups, these Nazis, and the Nazis and this other member, I'm not going to say the word, were actually collaborators. But, they're opposites, but it's the same coin. It's the same coin, but they want you to think that they're in opposition. Maybe on one level they're in opposition, but they're really working for the same goal. And they're using people, their physical labor, and a lot of these prisoners had technical skills. That's what they were used. They were used because many of them were scientists. They knew about science. They knew about electricity. They knew how to handle tools. What were they building? They were building spaceships. They were building all types of stuff. And they were also used in experimentation as well. What if these ETs, again, these wardens, the Third Reich, its leaders, you can see them as wardens, but they just have on fancy uniforms. But they're still being used by someone. And remember, if you really watch some of the occulted stuff on the history of World War II, you're going to hear that these leaders in the Third Reich were doing channeling, mental channeling, and tapping into the spirit realm and channeling information. See that? He even had women. To this one woman also was doing the same thing. They were also, the Third Reich, taking the Buddhists. What do Buddhist people do? The monks. What do? They do meditation, and they tap into different dimensions or realms, and they can gather information. What was the information? Technology. What if this dimensions is actually these ETs that have us in this prison planet, and they could make us like a what do you call it? The virtual reality type of thing, because you have heard, some of you have heard, that this world is a holographic system. It's not really real what you see. So they can make you see and do certain things, and you're not really realizing that it's a hologram. Okay? And so they can make you think, hey, you're a leader. We'll put you in charge of this place, that place. But in actuality, you're working for these same people who are, I am speculating that you are actually working on behalf of the people, or as they said at this Farsight Institute's, the remote viewing session, that these are ETs, and they don't have your best interests, and they can fool you, and they are fooling you to do things and to be recycled back. And see that, so it's like a cycle over and over and over again. This is horrible. So I'm seeing it's always the same theme. A layer upon a layer of abuse. You can have parents abusing their kids. You can have adults being abused by bosses. You have people who go in the military, and this fighting. Isn't this also like what The Matrix is all about? The movie The Matrix that came out in 1999, right? That you may be held within something and creating a scenario that's all being, wires connected to your head, and everything is like you're being used as a food source. This is really something else. It's very alarming. And I'm wondering, how do you get out of this mess? Let's say you die. You say, okay, you die aware of this this death matrix, this death trap, and you don't want to be recycled. But can the same thing happen? And we've seen in Hollywood pictures. Remember the movie? What was that? It was by Steven Spielberg. Was it Poltergeist? And you had the spirit medium there, and she said, "Don't go into the light." Well, they can make a light, and make it seem like it's going to be something positive, but it's a trap. So how do you know? Are these people like what they call ghosts, things like that? Now, is what ghosts really are those people who didn't enter the what they call the death trap, the recycling thing where it captures your soul and you're thrown back to earth? And these people had enough consciousness not to go, but the trauma of the death process is what's hurting them, what's traumatizing them, but they're aware enough not to go through that light. There is also another YouTuber who does the past life regression, and sometimes during her sessions, the client who's doing the regression, they may have what they said attachments to their body. And when the facilitator of this past life regression is conducting the session, realizes that they have an attachment, and some of these attachments are beings who didn't cross over, and she guides them back home, in quotes. They might see, like they said, well, we don't want to go, I'm afraid to go through the door. And so they said, well, you take a peek. And they might see a relative or something like that. And then they say, okay, I'll go. But what if that is a trap? What if that is part of the death trap? And so maybe they really aren't helping. Putting them. I mean, it's not good that these attachments attached to these people who are alive. But wow, this is really something. So I'm going to continue watching this video and try to come up, hopefully some of these questions that I have is resolved, is answered, then I'll come and finish it back. I have a question now. Yeah, this is a continuation. It's Tuesday, May 26th, 2020. The time now is 7:23 a.m. Yeah, I have another thought as it pertains to this death trap system that's being promoted on this planet, according to Farsight's remote viewing sessions. Question I have is, we've all heard of the term angels, guardian angels, spirit guides, especially what they call the New Age community. And I'm currently reading a book, as I mentioned a couple of videos ago, about archangels. Now I'm curious, as it pertains to this death trap, and it's a system that we're placed into on this planet. So if everything is really under their control because they brought you back here, wouldn't anyone who has the power of taking your soul and putting you where they want you to, wouldn't they also control the places where you live, the work you do, things like that? And so you have people who talk to these angels, spirit guides, and the like. What if this is part of the whole system? And how do we know whether what they tell you is in your best interest? Because I would imagine that if someone is like an overseer over the system, wouldn't they also place who has contact over you to keep the system going? Why would they give you a guardian angel or spirit guide? This is one of the thoughts I have about this. It's how does this fit in? You have many, many people who meditate and they pray to these entities. How do we know whether or not they're on our side? And they can make you feel any bodily feelings. They have control over what you think. Yes, and one of the other videos of this Farsight Institute on their website and on YouTube, they mention about who they call Zeus, the character Zeus, in Greek mythology, they remote viewed him and his existence. And I'm sorry, getting confused, but that, okay, there's a manipulation of one's mind. I'm sorry, erase that with the Zeus. There was something with that program, and they talked about. Oh, I remember it was with the popes, and they remote viewed about 3 of the popes. One of the 2 of them in our lifetime. The past 15 years. And then a pope from, I think, the 1940s or something like that, or 50s. But they did a probe on what they were thinking. And it turned out that these popes, it's really interesting. Each of the popes were being manipulated by, whether it be artificial intelligence or something, what they call non-surface object / ET on some type of spacecraft, and that there was a machine, and the machine was attached to some one of the people's mind, like their head. They had like electrodes, and they were manipulating the thoughts of all of the popes that they remote viewed. And it caused the minds of the popes to become, or at least some of them, imbalanced. So it's really something. So if something could alter the way you think, your mind, how you perceive things, they can also have devices that could influence how you feel. You can feel loving, you can feel anger, all these things. All these things. So this is just really something about the level of control that you have people in high positions, and many of them are being controlled. I'm wondering whether Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci are being mentally controlled, because they're erratic. Who would allow vaccines that kill, GMOs, all this stuff, and it's not for the benefit of humanity's wellness? These people could be controlled. And I'm wondering and speculating, maybe this is what could be happening with the leaders on this planet, and maybe even some families. People, you ever wonder why some families go through what they're going through? Is what they call a family curse. And each generation seems to go through the same thing. Why is that? Why they're going through what they're going through? Well, maybe they're being tapped. Just like I was tapped at that restaurant two years ago now. May of 2018 it happened. And I was minding my own business, and I was invited to go out with someone, and it was just by chance we went to that specific restaurant, which neither of us ever been to. And after 2 hours, what we were discussing. We were discussing some what they might call paranormal. We were talking about at least I was talking about what they call the secret space program, and the correlation that many of the people under this program have an O negative blood type. And while I was discussing this, I got zapped. It sounds crazy. This never happened to me before. And I'm not anyone higher up or anyone important. I don't want to say it like that, but I'm just a regular girl, lady, just going through life. And this happened. What if I'm not the only one that this is happening to? I have did that one interview a little over 2 years ago on an individual who claims that he was kidnapped by ETs and sold again that the same theme about being sold and trafficked to various people and places. So what's really going on? And why and how do they select who they're going to select? Okay? Yes, I'm continuing on this subject with this death trap, and just thoughts that come through my mind. Yeah, it's Tuesday, May 2026. Yes, this is my second thought. How are these beings, these beings that are on these spacecrafts and stuff like that, and they able to influence people on this planet by these devices? Well, again, you have to have what I mentioned in the first part that I mentioned about agents, or think of like a warden in a prison, or slave driver. These aren't the most intelligent people, whatever, but they're compliant enough. Maybe they're promised certain things or given extras, and so they keep them that way. Well, I would also imagine with some people, you might give them special ability, right? What type of special ability? Well, you notice that there's some people on this planet that they seem to score higher on certain types of exams, like IQ tests. They get into these real good schools, colleges. They don't have to seem to work as hard like other people. And somehow they're in these programs. They get accepted to programs in comparison to the general population. Why is this? And there was even a study done on this group of people that make up only maybe 1% of the world population, that they have this special gene in them. And this gene can do two things. It gives them higher ability of learning, but also they're prone to certain diseases. And a lot of these people that are in certain positions are a member of this group. And they are controlling a lot of the stuff that's happening in our current crisis that's happening these days. It's a major shift, political, financial shifting on the whole planet now. For the past, 2.5 months now? Yeah. And they want to implement all these viruses, and now they're getting, what do you call these, I forget the term, but they act as agents, and if you get on the list of individuals that test positive for that virus, okay, I don't have to say the word, but that virus that's happening now, pandemically, they're going to come to your home and they're going to question you and ask for, or I think they're called trackers, and they'll get information on who you've seen, who you've talked to, who you've had contact with, and then they're going to interview those people and so on and so on. Well, this is a trap. And see, if these people find out that you were in contact with so and so, and they test, that initial person tested so-called positive, but again, positive for what? You may not have had that exposed to that virus. Did you know that if you've had, like, let's say you lived in the tropics, you've had dengue fever or malaria, and if you take that same test now, that virus test, you too will be test positive, because it's only testing positive to the class of virus, that virus that is round in shape. Okay, so it's like the Romance languages. It's someone spoke the Romance language, the culprit. Well, the Romance languages could be French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, So that's like a class of language, a language grouping. But let's say the culprit was of a particular language. And it's not all of them. So the same thing with this current virus, that people are being tested positive for something that they may have never had. They may have antibody to something, but it could be for something else. We're surrounded by different types of pathogens. And again, these current pathogens may not actually be a virus, but just your own body excreting the toxins, and these toxins are being classified as being from a particular virus. And there's videos about this phenomenon that is, people being classified with something, and it's not. They're making something what it isn't. And so how could you create a vaccine for something that is just something that's symptomatic of your own biology? It's like they mentioned like someone with acne, a teenager with acne. You could sit right next to that person with acne. You don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Something is just within your own system. And it's not something that is transferable, like it's not something that's contagious. But they want you to think it is. So again, this system seems to be like a hierarchy, and they're placing people, or maybe giving people certain abilities, to run these different companies, these systems. Just start noticing anytime you see these scientists, whatever, look at them very closely and try to identify what group they belong to. And you may start to see a pattern. Look at that pattern, and that's part of the answer. Okay? Yeah. So this is very concerning to me. So how do we protect ourselves? This is just a food for thought for now. I'm going to continue later on. Yes, hi again. This is hopefully the last part of the topic about the death traps that the Farsight Institute has uploaded on their website. Yeah, the death traps is regarding when you pass away, that your body, your energy, your soul or whatever, gets put in some type of device. First, they lure you in to the light, and then the light turns dismal, and then you get zapped. And this zapping of your soul or whatever makes you forget your past, everything, and then they put you back to the planet, whatever. So it's a perpetual slavery. Yeah, I just completed the whole video, and so I want to try to sum it up, like the last bit of information that they gave. Now, they did mention at the end, they wanted to contrast the people who died and who were put through the death trap versus those who passed away and who didn't go into the death trap. So when the latter had passed away, their consciousness came with them, and then they immediately enter into, get this, another body, like their original home. So it seems like there is some type of process where someone in some remote place, it's like they're doing a study, or they have a project to do, an assignment, and they're sent to this world, or this dimension. They live their life, and then they die, and then they go immediately back to their origins. And they were able to, like, remember some of the things they did, and some of them they had remorse over. There was a thought process behind what happened. And they were able to, I think they met up with other people, but they're back in this other body. So I wonder, it's really interesting. Who of us are going to be sent back to the death trap, and who's going to go back to their home? And I think also Dolores Cannon, she's the researcher who promoted this hypnosis sessions where you travel back to your prior lives, So it's really provocative, and it always seems like with all this, the Farsight Institute, that everything seems to be connected with what they call extraterrestrials, ETs, some advanced civilization and spacecrafts, and that people are being put on these spacecrafts, and some of them on this video died in this spacecraft, and then they go back to their place of origin. Why are these spacecrafts here? Why are they abducting people? That they didn't discuss. And let's see, there was something else that I thought they were to discuss. Now, especially with the death trap. Now, okay, so they take you, you die, and then they wipe your mind, and they put you back here. For what means? Why? Who benefits? And for someone to say, well, I'm a sadist or something like that, what do they get out of it? So I'm thinking, again, the movie The Matrix. Make something traumatic enough, make somebody's life horrible, they're going to generate certain type of energy. And again, the movie The Matrix discusses this. So I'm wondering whether this death trap is all a part of what the Matrix movie is really discussing. So what about those people who didn't go through the alleged death trap and they pop back to their original body? Now what confused me a little bit with this is that, is this body that was there, their original home or whatever, was that body a deceased body? Did they die in their original place and then they came to Earth, and then when they died they went back to their other planet or wherever? What happened? That wasn't clear to me. That they didn't specify. It was just they just like they know who they are, and they just go about and giving the report what happened on planet Earth, whatever. So that definitely has to be explored more. But I think Dolores Cannon's work, I think they talked about a little bit, some type of school, like you go back to a classroom or something, and some of the people that are there are people that were in your past life, and it's like what they call a soul group, and you all are to learn a lesson. Now, it just seems like an endless circle. Well, so what? A classroom, just like you have a class here on Earth. You go through, you get a job, whatever. What is the purpose of going to this other school? And in order to conduct class, you have to die? It doesn't make sense. Is that part of the whole drama scene with the death trap? Is that classroom a death trap? Make you think you're in a classroom? Yeah. So what I gather, it just seems like you have people who are controlling different scenarios, who want to hide information. Like he mentioned, the director of the Farsight Institute, that he went to a convention, a UFO convention, and he noticed in the audience the mass majority of the people were elderly people. And it was just a few people from teens to 20s, he said, that age range. Outside of that, everybody was old. And so he concluded from there, he was a guest speaker at this conference, this director, and he made mention, that the information of what happened in Roswell is being suppressed, and that the new generation is not being told the information, or is being withheld from, they're being withheld this information, so they can't carry on the baton of what really happened in Roswell. And again, I heard that there was a big incident before Roswell. Some years, like maybe 10 years prior, there was another major event, and that one is even obscured even more. So this director from Farsight Institute is saying that, you have to start teaching people and letting them know what's going on. Instead, they're trying to make this particular group of people to look crazy, or New Ages, or whatever, to discredit anything that they say in order to cover the story. And the story in part, there are abductions, and that your mind can be manipulated even down here. And I would tend to agree with that based on my experience. So this is all that I have to say regarding this this video, and I would really like to find out what your thoughts are and what your experiences are as it pertains to your understanding about the spirit world, the death trap, or UFO abductions, mind wipe. Let me know. So take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, folks.